Hey, this is Tiger. Welcome to my stream. AJ, good evening to you. CD Radar, grüß dich. Back to you. You made it home from Austria, I hope, I assume, in one piece. So nice to see you guys on the chat. Tonight, a special stream. We're not only driving trains around Dresden, Preston, never realized that this is so close together. Dresden and Preston and New York City. Spectre, so nice to see you. And we will have an open discussion about the upcoming Train Sim World 6 routes and locos and all the stuff that is on the Take a Ticket. That includes the Czech route, Liberec to Stará, Paka. Not Novi Paka, but Stará Paka, and obviously the Tadami line and all the other great routes that have been announced. We will be coming to this, so the idea of the stream is actually I will be driving trains in Dresden, Preston and New York City, and in between we will look at the pieces that have been announced for German trains, for British trains, for American trains, and then what is all in the routes around that new countries. Not six, unfortunately, but 3 new countries, new signaling systems, new safety systems maybe. So what will we have first? Dresden, Juniper, so nice to see you on the chat. And guys, Aqua94, a great evening to you. Moin. To the north of Germany, most probably, according to the greeting. Juniper, what do you think about the whole Epic Games situation? I will talk about the Epic Games situation in the end. This is the most disastrous part about Train Sim World 6. Well, maybe the only disastrous part, but this is obviously disastrous for everyone who is playing on the Epic Games Store. We will get to this after we've talked about the routes. I've prepared one slide on the presentation for that, and yeah, not to spoil the thing, but I will have to switch to Steam, obviously, to continue my job here as someone who wants to present the game in its full glory, with all the layers filled and with all the DLCs on. But we will get back to this later. And this also means retiring my 2444 level character and start anew on Steam. So I need you guys later then to tell me how to call Hank with a last name. But we will get back to this. First we will dip into the existing Dresden route and see how beautiful the route already is. It is not a coincidence that it is Matt's favorite route in Germany at any rate, and I've always thought it is one of the most complex routes that we have, with the most different signal action, PZB action that you can get. So it is not a coincidence that I used it a lot for my PZB videos. Again, the DLCs that I will be playing today, I bought them myself. Other DLC keys I got from Dovetail Games for free as being an ambassador. Nevertheless, even though I am an ambassador, I'm getting DLC keys for free. What you hear tonight, what I'm telling you about Train Sim World 6 and all the other things, is totally my own opinion. It is not influenced by DTG or somebody else, and I will tell you what I like and what I don't like. All in all, I'm really excited about the stuff that we're getting in new, but obviously there are always niggles and things, and just ask me, hit me if you have specific questions, and then I will tell you exactly what I think and yeah, where I can have an opinion on Dresden. I can have an opinion on. And City Red asked me, how are you? Well, okay-ish. I think the thing with the Epic Game Store hit me, obviously. Other things, well, it's life. You have to deal with it. Timetable. Take the expert timetable, and we will be riding what we haven't done in a while, the Bauer 146.2, the Trax 2 locomotive in the incarnation from Frankfurt Fulda, and we will be running an empty stock move from Dresden to Meissen, and probably take July light clouds in the morning at 10 to 5. And when I prepared this run and played the service a couple of days ago, I was really enchanted how beautiful the Dresden DLC, especially the Meissen branch, is. And if you look into the Dresden DLC, you already have different routes. You have 2 branches, one to Meissen and the other one, no, I don't have the name ready. But at any rate, this is a complex route, and it will get more complex in the Leipzig-Dresden route that we are getting. The 146.2, why the Trax 2? Because we are getting, as you all know, the 145 as an expert locomotive, and the 145 is more or less the grandmother to this locomotive here. Some people call it the Trax Zero or a Trax precursor. Need to find the AFB switch. Should be here. Yes.
AFB. AFB.
See the radar. Oh, Meissen definitely want to visit this place someday. Oh yeah, you can do that. It's actually, if you look at the map, really close to the Czech Republic. Dresden, we will see it later on the map when we will compare the Liberec Stará Paka route to Leipzig Dresden. I've prepared a lot of maps so that we can see where those routes that we're getting actually fit in with all the other stuff that we have. Can see that the Trax 2 does give us an AFB holding brake. We can release the brakes, we can fill our brake pipe to 5 bars, and we are still good. I opened the doors just to see if the doors open. Since it is an empty stock move, we are not taking any passengers aboard, and we can just start our train after having released the brakes, set up all the necessary stuff. Do we have lights on? Signal lights are normal. Sometimes there is a... We put it here into headlights, so we should actually be good. We have headlights on. Then we can start with 80, but as always, when we're starting, remember the PCB starting program. So always 40 on the AFB first. Train is releasing the AFB holding brake and applying some power, and we're on the move. We have 80 considered. What? We have the sub goal met 10 out of 10. Thank you so much. Who subbed? I can't see who subbed, so I can not thank you for that. But whoever did it, thank you so much. So that we have reached our subscribers goal of 10. It was me, that's Jammy Stuff. Thank you so much and welcome on the chat for the very first time. This is historical. This channel has never had a 2-digit subscriber number. Now it has. Alright. We're leaving Dresden main station. Under signaled 80. That's a repeater. Getting a high green. And what is really cool in the Dresden-Leipzig route, Leipzig-Dresden route that we're getting, we are getting the whole Friedrichstadt branch with the whole yard that is connecting here. If you look at the map at the moment here, this just ends in nothing, and here is actually a big yard with a connection that ends up here, connects back here at this junction close to Coswig, and there is a handful of stations here that will be inserted. This was a thing that was very important for Matt when we talked about it, to include this part with the yard, and we will see action here. And I'm quite happy that this will happen. Here is Riesa, and this is where the Leipzig route will be added to the game. But not to forget that we are getting a significant enhancement. Unfortunately, we did not get the Flughafen connection, but I think the Friedrichstadt connection is so much more interesting. And maybe at some time, as routes grow, we will be getting the Friedrichstadt Flughafen connection as well. So let's say pay a bit attention to the signals. I don't want to get a Zwangsbremsung. Now we're running across the Elbe, or Labe, as City Radar would put it, with this Congress Center here. I once visited a Congress in this Congress Center. It's really a beautiful Congress Center. And in the background, the old city, the Semperoper. And now I have to pay attention, because the 70 announced gives us 1000 hertz. Dresden Neustadt. And City Radar says, yesterday I rode a bike along the Labe. Probably not along the Labe for its full length. But this must be really beautiful. I should come visiting the Czech Republic. It is so close, actually. So, the 70 will end the next signal, probably. We're getting a repeater for expecting the high green. Here is our high green. Limit is still at 70. Here it increases to 100. Let's check how long our train is. 125 meters. So, it is totally okay to go one distance between the hectometer boards for 100, and then almost shortly after it is 120. We're going on the slow line here, where the S-Bahn trains usually go, not on the fast track that is here to our left, the two tracks to the left. Spectre, Klötzchenbroder or Weintraube, yeah, Kötschenbroder I think is the one. Well, we will see it on the chart for the names for the stations. We will be getting Dresden Stitch also. This is a part of Germany where you would actually want to have the Cyrillic alphabet to put all those, I don't know what it is called in English, all those Tischlaute into proper use. And now we're running along exactly this line of little stations. Radebeul, Weintraube. Until we get to Coswig. We're not stopping since we are an empty coach move. Yeah, we should visit Liberec city radar. I should find a way how to fit this into the calendar. And then we go along the line. Yeah, I'm really excited about the 3 new countries that we will be getting this year or the next year. For TSW6 or later. Portugal and Czechia came totally as a surprise for me. I did not expect this. Japan is obviously on the agenda for longer. I'm waiting for Tadami so long now, says Akura 94. Yeah, I'm really longing for Tadami. It must be such a beautiful line. We will talk about it later, but I wonder if we're getting actually the whole line between, what is it, Koide and Aiku Wakamatsu, I think is the station at the other end. That's really a long one. Portugal is surprising in this aspect, and Setúbal in particular, probably because of the bridge. Yeah, I guess because of the bridge. And Juniper, did they only tell you ahead of time about the core routes or also the roadmap third-party routes? I heard about the third-party routes and roadmap routes when we visited Dovetail in the ambassador event 2 weeks ago. But they just mentioned that there will be those routes. Nothing about what trains and all the other things. First thing obviously that I did was trying to check out where I can find Portuguese signaling rules and regulations. The Czech ones I already had, because CD Radar was kind enough to provide me with them. So, now we should actually be getting closer. I think there's one more station and then there is that little descent into Cosvik, where we should be slowed down to 60. Whoops. With all the trees. Inspector asks if I have been to Lisbon. No, worth visiting. Under the 25th of April there are lots of nice restaurants along the Tajo River. Yeah, the 25th April bridge. No, haven't been there yet. But as always, I would love visiting. HL signal. A flashing yellow only happens in the HL signaling system. Tells us to expect slow, 40 or 60. We know from our route knowledge that it is 60 that we have to expect. Because it's this switch that we're going across. I hope the GPA here knows that as well. Yeah, so far it does not stop us down. I remember when this route was new in the rush hour time, those GPA magnets were set to a wrong speed. at the day of the release, and this was one of the rare events where I actually got an answer on my forum entry, and it got fixed. So some things actually get fixed, and got even in former times. Yellow with the bar on the bottom is the 60, and expect slow again. Don't forget to acknowledge. In real life, terrain drivers tend to hit the Wachsamkeitstaste twice from what I've seen, in case that it doesn't register the first time. Okay, we didn't go across the switch, we're just running straight through. But nevertheless, we are at 60 on the switches, 60 again on the bottom, and now expect to stop. Not flashing, but a straight and steady yellow on the HL signals. That was 60 and stop. So I'm slowing down to 40. What is the release speed after the 500 Hertz magnet? In case we hit one actually. And just let the train coast towards the signal. We're getting this because we have to go left across all 4 tracks here to go to the Meissen branch. There's another steady yellow. What is a repeater? An HL repeater with those funny white circle or black circle signs, marking it as a repeater instead of the white additional light that you see on West German signals and the KS signals. And the signal is actually red that we're running up against. So we should get a 500 Hertz if there is one. No, but now the signal actually cleared, as you can see. It cleared to 60 and go. That means we can release. Yellow lamp has already extinguished, and here this is an old bug. We release, but still the 85 is shown. It is no longer active. We don't need to acknowledge this signal, even though it has some yellow in it. So the old rule that we have to acknowledge everything that is yellow is not true in this context, but obviously it doesn't matter. Now it's extinguished because we ran out the whole 1.25 kilometers of the 1000 Hertz. We can't go faster than 60 because we are going across the switch. And after we are through the Weichenbereich, we can accelerate to 70, as we can see here. And soon enough we will get a 100 sign that allows us to go to 100. And then we will be passing Neusörnewitz. And I think this is the part where I will cut in the presentation, part 1, with discussing a route for Dresden. Actually, there is something yellow still on. This is why I'm not accelerating to 100. Now we're getting not an HL signal, but a KS distance signal. That is telling us that we should prepare to stop in the regular braking distance of about 1000 kilometers. What is the starter signal at Neusörnewitz? So every time you're running under a yellow in Germany, approaching a red signal, unless you're running a very heavy freight train or running under PCBM. So every time you're running under PCBO, let's say it like that, it is typically quite okay to run with something between 60 and 40, because it should be below the 60 when you hit the 500 Hertz and have to be not faster than 40 after 153 meters. past the 500 hertz. Now the signal cleared. We don't even need to release because the 1000 hertz monitoring ran off anyway. A bit early, probably. If that was 1000 meters, it should still be on. Nevertheless, it is off now. And we can accelerate to 100. In this spell between Neuschönewitz and Meissen. And before we actually get to Meissen, presentation time. And let me know about your thoughts of the route. You hear a lot that German players are not really happy with what German stuff will come to Train Sim World 5, Train Sim World 6, sorry. Where is my presentation? It should be somewhere. Here it is. Because we're not getting a new route, but just an extension, and we're not getting any new trains in that route. Well, let's look at the map. You can see the map here. There is Leipzig in the left top and Dresden on the right one. Chemnitz in the bottom middle. That is more or less the central and northern part of Saxony. You can see the Czech Republic here, at least a little bit of it. You can see where the river Labe, or Elbe in German, comes from the Czech Republic and goes through Germany until it ends up in the sea. And what do we have? What routes do we have so far in this area? But before we do that, just that you know where we actually are. This is a map of Germany, or at least most of it. I cut off a bit of Schleswig-Holstein north of Flensburg. But you can see where we are. This is this part, central and northern Saxony, Leipzig, Dresden, Chemnitz. Then there is Zwickau, Plauen, Hoyerswerda. Then we have whole of Saxony. Here is the Czech Republic. Here is Poland. There is Austria. Liechtenstein is not technically a neighboring country because we don't have a border with it. Here is Switzerland, here is France, Luxembourg, Belgium, the Netherlands, and here would be Denmark. It's not on the map anymore. CD Radar is laughing. So here's Prague, CD Radar's place, Munich, Nuremberg, Stuttgart, Heilbronn. We will talk about this later. Frankfurt, Mannheim, where the Pfälzische Ludwigsbahn is. Düsseldorf, Essen, Dortmund, where we have a lot of routes. Berlin, where we don't have any route at all. Hamburg. So that is more or less where we are, in what part of Germany all this is happening. And what do we have here? Obviously our route that we are driving on at the moment, Dresden-Riesa, with this main line. But this is not all that what is in this DLC. We have the avoiding route, the high-speed route that you typically go on with the ICEs and with the IC services. What is already quite nice that you have two routes. Then we have the branch to Großenhain, what I did not remember, and then the branch to Meissen-Triebitztal, what we are going on this service. So this is already quite a complex map, and it is not just an A to B and B to A map, but you have a lot of different services. There was also a little connector here at this corner that not many services took, and What else do we have? We have the Tarante-Rampe route, a great route that has been forgotten since it was released a bit, in my opinion. That was the route that Open-Minded and me made this Ibula conversion thingy for it. It is it's an interesting route with GNT and the 612, where it came into existence. Since then it did not get a lot of credit and has not been played a lot, not even by me. Maybe we can reinvent this at some time. Then one of the oldest routes in the game, Rapid Transit from Dessau, what is north of the map, to Markkleeberg via Leipzig. That is a route, well, that needs a facelift. A lot of things don't work in it. It is actually a route with a lot of potential, but obviously it is old. And yeah, what do we get now in Trainsim World 6 Tarantarampa and Rapid Transit would be nice with TOD Forces Spectre and new timetables. Totally. Maybe the new Leipzig Dresden route is doing this. And what are we getting now for Trainsim World 6 is this connecting line here from Leipzig to Riesa and all what was in Dresden Riesa so far. So if you look at this just from the size of it, people complaining that we're just getting an extension to Dresden Riesa. Well, I can't see that. They totally could have gone ahead and sold Leipzig Riesa as a new route. And so they integrated Dresden. We have a really complex, large map now. And it is more or less one step towards route merges, right? We have Leipzig Riesa merged with Riesa Dresden. And we can go on services along the whole map. And we even got this, what I've talked in the beginning, this part across or through Friedrichstadt. What even adds more complexity to the map. So I am totally happy with that. Not because I'm getting paid for it and not because I'm getting the whole game for free as being an ambassador, what is nice. But I can tell you totally, I did not buy, or I wouldn't buy every DLC and route and loco that is released, but the Trains in World 5, 6, 7 Deluxe bundles I would always buy, because you always get a bunch of interesting stuff for actually a quite reasonable price if it is bundled. So that stuff I would totally buy, even if I wasn't an ambassador. I'd be actually keen on it, and I think Germans get definitely not the short end of the stick with this, because there is not a lot of maps in the game that are so complex, where you can drive from so many different points to so many different ending points, and it is a long thing. It is really a long thing from Dresden to Leipzig. Apart from that, it is apparently the oldest Fernbahn in Germany, so the oldest railway line that goes for a longer distance, connecting different cities. The oldest railway in Germany obviously was the one between Nuremberg and Fürth, the Adler, but that is a very short stretch, and this is here apparently the oldest one that actually goes across a significant distance, Leipzig and Dresden. So I'm totally looking forward to that route. And here you can see it again. This is the official Trains in World 6 map chart that they sent to the ambassadors to advertise the route for them. So Leipzig, Dresden, 77 kilometer, 77 kilometers of new track with 20 new stations, equals 106. They actually got a typo here. It is 160 kilometers in total. The new line via Friedrichstadt and expansive freight yard and youth variety. Well, that is obviously the thing that a lot of people are grumbling about, that we're not getting a new train. No Zero HC, no ICE4 stuff. Well, yeah, well, that is actually so nice. The trains that you get with the routes are a bit like the usual suspects. The 411, ICET, Frankfurt Fulda, and then the trains that have been in the game forever. The Talent 2, the 146.2 actually, not the 146, because the 146 is a different locomotive than the 146.2 with the Dostos, and the 185 that we know from the game. That you have to accept. If that is super important for you, then you can call this a nickel, but the route in itself, it's great. So this part is new. All those stations will be new. Leipzig, Sellerhausen, Paunsdorf, Engelsdorf, Borsdorf, Gerichsheim, Machern, Altenbach, Bennewitz, Wurzen, Küren, Dorn, Reichenbach, Dahlen in Sachsen, and Oschatz. Talent 2 come back. Well, I always like driving the Talent 2, but, well, it is an old banger in the game. You can't deny that. And this part will be new. This is the line across Friedrichstadt, and those stations here are new. Radebeul, Naundorf, Niederwertha, Dresden, Kassel-Baude, Dresden, Stetsch, Dresden, Chemnitz, Dresden, Kotta, and Dresden, Friedrichstadt. Those are here, and the other ones are the ones that we all know from Glaubitz, Nünchritz, Priestewitz, Meissen, Triebestal, Neusörnewitz, this is what we just passed, Radebeul, Zitschewig, Radebeul, Kötschenbroda, here they missed an R, Adebeul, Weintraube, and yeah, Dresden, Drachau, Pieschen, I think it is called. I actually don't know if it is called Pieschen or Pieschen, but I think it is Pieschen. Bischofsplatz, Neustadt, Mitte Freiburger Straße, and so on. Yeah, this is the thing, a great route with the trains. Well, somewhere you probably have to make amends, and it is 160 kilometers in total, as I said, no 106. And this is the Deluxe Loco that we're getting, the Baureihe 294, a V90 locomotive. Some people say, oh, it's not the proper Loco, it's only a shunter. Well, I don't think so. I'm really happy about this Loco because it is. I've tried to drive it when we were at Dovetail Games 2 weeks ago. It was not really finished when we were able to play it in the play lab there. But it is definitely more complex than a lot of locomotives where you just go like reverser, brakes, throttle, go. It is more complex and a different way of driving this locomotive. I actually couldn't do it when I looked at it. Better than the 204. It's a totally different thing. The 204 is a German Democratic Republic built thing with this funny PZB Anzeigegerät, so totally good that it is in the game, but the V90 is quite powerful. Yeah, totally. And it can do line running as well as shunting, so it is a super interesting locomotive, and I will never forget that when I was trying to figure it out, Matt himself came, reached up over my shoulder and told me, yeah, you have to do this, and then it didn't work either, and then we reloaded and he did it again, and then it worked and we could get it running. So this will be super interesting, this locomotive, and you see them a lot in Germany, doing different things, actually shunting and doing line running work. And I once had the pleasure to watch this locomotive running remote controlled on a hump yard. You know, those hump yards where they sort out the freight cars by running them down a decline into tracks that are like a harp so that you can sort them. Somebody sits in the tower, remote controls the locomotive. And the interesting part, what I didn't know before, is that there is actually one man necessary who walks along the train with a long stick of wood, and his job is to separate the couplings at the proper spots between the cars, because that is what cannot be done automatically with the chain link couplings that we're using. So those couplers are loosened so that you can actually reach in with this pole and get the hook off the chain, and then the cars are disconnected at this point, and when they go over the grade they start running on their own and are stopped then with Gleisbremsen or whatever they have there. And there is a camera, like a gantry with a camera, and the camera reads whatever code those cars have on, and then this thing automatically sorts the cars into the correct tracks to build new trains and freight trains, obviously, and so that every car arrives at the proper location. And this was done with a 294 that was remote controlled, and the 294 is, as you can already see in the number, a remote controlled locomotive. It was before that, I think, a 290, and by getting fitted with all this remote control stuff, it became a 294. Unfortunately, the remote control stuff cannot be simulated in Train Sim World because of the problem that the center of the world is always where the player is. And this does not seem to work with remote controlling that. If it says abstoßen und ablaufen lassen verboten on the cars, it will be tea and biscuits with the manager. Yes, those cars should not be in a train like this. Ablaufen lassen und abstoßen verboten. That is a thing that you shouldn't do. Well, you read that a lot on passenger cars, and they obviously don't do that with passenger cars. It would be actually quite funny if all the cars with the passengers in them with the different locations would be sorted on a hump yard, but they don't do that for a reason. But with freight cars, it actually works quite well, and it is interesting to watch. And the funniest thing is this guy with the pole, and everything is high-tech, but the guy with his wooden pole is the most important to sever the couplings before they run down the hill, and he has to do it in the proper places, otherwise everything does not work. See, well, with free cam you can remote control your loco. Yes, this works a bit, but not in a way that you can actually be the player and stay there and remote control, because the free camera always can be reattached, and we are always playing Hank with the free camera, right? So we have a different center of the world sometimes, but it does not work in the way that you wear this remote control thingy around your chest and control the locomotive from afar or even from the tower in those hump yards. Yeah, what did I put on this tag here? It is built by a couple of different manufacturers. Maschinenfabrik Kiel in the first place, Henschel, and KAD, what was it, Klöckner, so Deutz. And first built in the 1966. In 1966 there was the locomotive itself, and in 1995 they got the remote control. It's a diesel hydraulic B prime B prime locomotive, so 2 bogies, 4 axles. Because it's hydraulic, it does not have separate driving motors, obviously, with top speed of 70 kilometers per hour. So this is what we will be getting for the Deluxe Loco. This is an interesting thing, so I cannot understand people complaining about this. Obviously, if you wanted an ICE4, if you wanted a D0 high capacity or whatever train, then you are disappointed. I can feel that, but, well, you can't have everything. The package that you get in German stuff, it is very, very interesting in my opinion, and I'm looking totally forward to it. What else will we be getting for Germany? There is one more German route announced, not for Trains in World 6, but for the time after the release of Trains in World 6, and it is Stuttgart-Heilbronn. We are a different part of Germany now, a part where we don't have any routes so far. It is the southwestern part of Germany here. Stuttgart-Heilbronn. Stuttgart-Heilbronn. So, not the Bavarian, Munich, Augsburg, Ingolstadt, Nuremberg side in the eastern part of southern Germany, but it is the western part of southern Germany with Baden-Württemberg. And there we have Stuttgart-Heilbronn. This is the route. It is heading back to the 2000s era with a brand new German route coming from the Dovetail games team, so an in-house production, not a third-party one. So I guess we will be getting less and less in-house productions of DTG routes, more and more third-party routes, as there are more third-party providers that are more specialized and everything. This one will be from DTG, explore over 50 kilometers, so not so super long, in southwest Germany on the extremely busy 2000s era. So 2000 era timetable with a mix of big freight yards and fields. We will be getting a new locomotive, the 140. What does Acura say? As a person from northern Niedersachsen, Lower Saxon, I would love to see a Hamburg-Bremen route to go from Oldenburg to Lübeck. Not much going on in the northern regions. That is true. That would connect Oldenburg, Bremen, Hamburg, Bremen, Lübeck. There are not so many routes in northern Germany. Northern Germany is a bit like what we said about the Dutch routes. Yeah, no, we did not say that on the stream, right? I was discussing with Jamie at DTG that it is so flat, right? It is sometimes a bit boring. I love the Hamburg-Lübeck route because it usually has interesting PCB action going on, but the Bremen-Oldenburg route has never enchanted me so much because there is not so much going on between Bremen and Oldenburg. It is more or less always the same speed limit. It is more or less always the same gradient, hardly a bend. But I totally agree. We should have more routes in the north and in the north of Germany. So maybe Bremen-Hamburg would definitely be a long one if you look at the map here. Oldenburg-Bremen, this is what we have. Hamburg-Lübeck, that is that. And Bremen-Hamburg, it is at least long enough to have something to build in there. Yes, but what do we get for the Stuttgart-Heilbronn? A 140. We did not have a 140 yet in the game. It is a quite old locomotive. It is one of the Einheitslokomotivenphase, with the one-phase AC motors. Probably a tap changer locomotive then, with a 4-axle layout, BO prime, because it is an electric locomotive, built in the years between 57 to 73 with a maximum speed of 100 and in some versions with 110 kilometers. Interesting locomotive, is more like an ancestor in the 110 and 111 locomotives that we already have in the game, and they promised a Wittenberger Steuerwagen as a Wittenberger Kopf. So far we have on Bremen-Oldenburg, we got the Karlsruher Kopf as a Steuerwagen. In the 218 diesel locomotive DLC, it was also used for running a diesel, because the fun with the Karlsruher Kopf and those kind of cab cars is that you can change the table that the driver is sitting at, and then you can use it either for electric locomotives or for diesel locomotives. Obviously you can't do this as a driver, it needs to be done in the workshop, but anyway. And the Wittenberger Steuerwagen is a different version of this kind of cab car, with not only the conventional push-pull control, konventionelle Wendezugsteuerung, but already with Zeitmultiplexer Wendezugsteuerung, time division control for the time division multiplexing control for the push-pull trains. Very interesting what is going on there, so I will be looking forward to that. I won't show you pictures of those locomotives, they can easily be googled, and then you can find the pictures, and I don't have any problems with copyright and stuff. Yeah, from Henschel, AEG, BBC Braun Boveri Company. So those were the manufacturers that were around in the Bundesbahn side, and often it was not built by one manufacturer, but things were put together. So no Stuttgart 21, lol, says Juniper. No. Rumor is that they tried to build it, but they couldn't get it done. Depending on livery, the 140 would work well on left Rhine. Yeah, I'm quite sure that they will find a livery. And cost freight with a 110 is a no-go. Yeah, that's true. Freight with a 110, they should not do this. And it works really weird. I think on Dresden Oldenburg they have some freight services with a 110, but this doesn't work at all. Well, I think this is what the German part will be from Train Sim World 6 and what comes after. And I get the presentation out of the way, and we will drive to Meissen. And after that, we will get to the British part. So let me know what you think about the German stuff that we'll be getting. Do you agree with the people who say, well, only an extension, not a full route? Not even a discount for people who already own Dresden Riesa? No new trains? So again, a money grab? Or are you rather on my side, saying this is one of the most complex routes that we ever have in the game. I like the approach of incorporating older routes and improving them, because a lot of people always say, why are they throwing out so many new DLCs instead of fixing the old stuff? Well, this is a way of improving and fixing the older routes that works in an economic environment where you actually have to pay the people who do that. It was true a bit for the Long Island Railroad DLC, and more so for this route. And in the bundle for Trains in World 6 you get a discount for the route anyway, as compared to paying $40 for each route separately and $20 for each locomotive separately. And here you get 3 deluxe locos and 3 routes for like, what is it, $75. Spectres, I agree with your assessment. As a PlayStation 5 player, I am used to not getting loyalty discounts and stuff, but I am unsure about Trains in World 6. I'm no longer interested in US stuff. Germany I am not so sure of. Currently only playing UK routes, mainly the Just Train ones. Oh yeah. See, I like the new features, but I agree with the voices that this doesn't need to be entire new game. Well, the thing with the entire new game is that with the free starter edition, it is more or less an update to the game. If it wasn't for the problem with the Epic Game Store, you could just take it as an upgrade if you don't want to have the routes and locos. So if they call it Trains in World 6, or if they call it the Mega Update 2025 for Trains in World 5, I can't see the big difference. I have to stop at my red light and read the chat at the same time. Gotta be careful. I think it would be fair to discount the new route maybe by like 70% for owners of the old route. Well, on Steam and the Epic Games Store you get anyway a discount by putting it in the bundle. You have a discount anyway. We can talk about it whether it is fair or not. I think you get enough new stuff in the route that you can pay the price. Oh, signal cleared. I see a flashing green. Can't release yet because the yellow lamp is still on. Spectre, so maybe I will get the free upgrade pack and then wait for sales on the UK route. Let's see. That is totally what I would do. Get the free starter pack, just grab the upgrade. Now we are at 60 and stop. Can hardly be read, but this is what it says. Oops. Now the nice part where we go across the Labe, the Elbe again with Meissen in the background. And this is definitely one of the greatest spots of the Trains in World 2 era here. That Meissen branch with the river and the old town. Juniper, I don't know, I think at some point a route gets too long. I don't have time or desire to drive for 2 hours at the time. This would be better if they'd improve save games. True. What I don't know if actually there are a lot of services that run the whole route. If it is high-speed services, it might not be so long anyway. Well, but I, on the other hand, love those endless drives for 2 or 3 hours. But they should definitely put in a mix. Acura, same with train symbol 6 in the UK route at Spectre. Yeah. Well, what you always can do, you can always wait for a sale, and then typically you get the whole bundle for a heavily discounted price. So if you can wait for half a year, grab the starter edition and then pay 20 or 30 bucks for 3 great routes and 3 great locos. So where I can understand this money grabbing argument at least a bit is when it comes for releasing a lot of route DLCs that are sometimes a bit short and no new trains and new locomotives or livery packages or something. I think this is where a lot of more money is actually made than with the annual new game bundle, because you cannot charge that much for 3 routes and 3 locomotives. Even the special edition makes more sense this year than it did last year, I think. With Train Sim World 5, the special edition only gave you like 1 or 2 routes, and this time you get, or is it 4 or 5 routes of the Train Sim World 5 era. So if you stop buying those routes and are just rounding it up, grab the special edition in half a year for whatever it is, then 40 bucks, and you have 1 year of Train Sim World 5 and 6 development for a very discounted price. So if you actually are willing to do this, this is always a way. And since you can get the free starter upgrade for free, I think the money grabbing argument with releasing a new version of the game every year is off the table. Spectre, one other aspect I would like to raise, the situation with DLCs is really getting crowded and unorganized. I have lost track of what layers on what and what is needed for that. I would be much better if routes and locos were unbundled to keep things simple and use less memory. Maybe, yeah. Well, the thing with DLCs, we see it on the Epic Game Store. The layering stuff, I think it was discussed that there will be some new or a new concept to switch off layers by default anyway, and then you can switch on the layers that you want to have, and in this menu you can see what layers there are actually. So you have more control about the layers, Inspector. And to be honest, this is not about the money for me. I'm willing to pay for the work involved. It is just I do not need 100s of routes. I like busy routes. Yeah, well, I think this is a problem if you're running a game like this. You have players that demand this and demand that, and this train and this route, and can you do that and can you do that, and I guess they have to try to do what people demand and offer a great variety of routes, and it is then up to the player to only buy the routes that they want. And maybe, and this is probably what your point is, you need to have the route to have the trains so that it is crowded on the route that you want. You can see that. And this is what you probably meant when you said you want the trains unbundled from the route, so that if you want to have the train on your route, then you don't want to have the route that the train lives in. I guess this is a bit of a structural problem, because up to this point Train Sim World is built in a way that a train always lives in one home route, or in 2 of them with some locomotives, so that it still needs to be routed in one route DLC. This is the train that we're waiting for, by the way, leaving Meissen Triebittal. And we can't go there because this is the track that we want to go to. So we will have to wait for this train to pass. Juniper, my feeling with this release is that they focused on improving the world part of the name with new countries, which is fair, but maybe resulted in some disappointment for German, Dutch, US fans. Yeah. Whereas improving the world part is more or less a thing with getting more third-party providers to a standard where they can deliver the routes from different countries, right? Now we've got a KS2 with a ZS34, so we're limited to 40. That ZS13 signal underneath tells us that we are running into a dead-end track. Though ZS13, I think the number is ZS13. Tell me if I'm wrong there. It's only used in the eastern part of Germany. Ronnie, guten Abend, finally done with the early shifts for this planning quarter. Alright, so this is what you did. So what do you think about the German trains that we get in Trains in World 6? Oh, I did not talk about the 145 yet. Fully filled standby duty today. Was quite fun, to be honest. Alright, you had standby duty and actually had to do stuff. Okay, tell us about it. Tell us about what is happening today in DB Fernverkehr. Wo Velaro, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, well, a lot of people are missing the Velaro. I would have liked a Velaro too, to be honest. But there is no Velaro. There is a V90 and there is the grandmother of all trucks, the 145. Of course there is no Velaros CD radar. Well, I don't know why there is no Velaro. I have no information if they tried to make one and run into problems with memory, because it is such a large train. Or whether it was just too expensive to develop. I don't know. By the way, guys, I might have told you that this is going to be a long stream today. And here we are, and this concludes the service. From Dresden to the beautiful Meissen Triebischtal. And what I forgot in the presentation about German stuff, obviously, was the part about the Baureihe 145 Expert. And what does the Ronnie say? Started at 5 AM. Oh, that is a lot early. Already had something planned in the shift overlook and got extended. Trip to Würzburg, deadhead to Nuremberg, and then prepare an empty stock and get that back to Munich. Alright. So explain, what is the difference between deadhead and empty stock? And Juniper asks, you have the day off tomorrow, getting late. Not really, but I can fiddle my hours a bit tomorrow. So if we get through everything that I have planned, then it will be long. So this locomotive here is coming to the game in the expert version. It is going to be the second expert. Deadhead is riding as passenger, right? It's Spectre. Maybe. I understand. So deadheading is you're not driving, but you're just riding on the train as a passenger, and then empty stock to Munich. Well, that sounds like fun. Ever drove a 145? I actually have to say that this is not a locomotive. Time to grab food on the deadhead, says Ronnie. Yep, that's true. That is not a locomotive that I had on my agenda, totally. The Baureihe 145 here in a blue livery of RBH, what is a subsidiary nowadays of DB Cargo, if I'm not wrong. So can't tell you what RBH actually means. There are different stories. I like the wolves, the CD radio. Yes, there is a Vuk getting into the cab, and yeah, I got it from their website, their homepage actually, and this livery will be in the game. Second ever expert loco next to the 101, what is a bit a sister to it, right? Because when AEG was developing the 101, ABB was developing the 145. No, the other way around. ABB was developing the 101, and AEG was developing the 145. Canines for the wind, suspect is. And yeah, featuring a DB and an RBH. This is the RBH livery, at any rate, the RBH livery that I found. And new expert level features such as manual brake hose operation with working angle cocks. So those are these thingies here, the brake hoses that you have to connect actually in real life manually, and then open the angle cocks so that the brake pipe actually runs through the whole train. And at the moment, coupling is quite easy in the game. You just click on the coupling and then clicks. It is happening all by itself, and in real life it's a bit more handiwork to be done. And well, a part of this should be then simulated so that you can manually connect the brake hoses, disconnect them, and the working angle cocks. So if you forget to close the angle cocks before you cut the connection, then this might end up in a mess. New T3000E container wagons. Yes, so a new type of wagon you get yourself. There is a flatbed car that actually takes a container, and additional content on the Dresden Leipzig TSW6 core route. Alright, so this is a locomotive developed by AEG Schienenfahrzeuge, at the time a subsidiary of Mercedes-Benz, I think, later then converted to Adtrans after they merged with ABB, Asea Brown Boveri, and then developed under Adtrans. It is a Drehstrom lok, a three-phase AC with 2 bogies, 4 axles, everyone driven with a separate driving motor, obviously. Released in 1997 with a top speed of 140. You can see that is obviously a thing that is not developed for passenger transport but for freight services. Otherwise it should have a maximum speed of 160 actually. And yeah, will be interesting. It is, in my opinion, a bit too close to the 101 to be totally excited about it. Because we don't have a lot of expert trains and locomotives in the game, but now we have 2 sister locomotives, more or less, that are simulated by the expert team. I guess this is, on the other hand, a thing that TSG can only make expert locomotives if their developers / train drivers have access to those machines, and yeah, can actually check out if those locomotives are really working like that, the way that they are modeling them as expert locos. So will be interesting. Maybe not a thing that I would buy on release if I actually had to pay for it, but definitely interesting. Ronnie, at least I get my Velaro Neo dose on Tuesday. Yes, in real life. This is actually one of the perks if you are a real life train driver. Then you don't have to wait for Dovetail games to provide you with the train. On the other hand, you cannot run trains in Japan, the Czech Republic, or Portugal. Not even in Great Britain. At least I got my Velardos on Tuesday. Munich, Mannheim, Stuttgart, Munich. The only non-408 part is the Mannheim-Stuttgart part. Beautiful. So that, I think, was... Yeah. It is sometimes called the Truck Zero or the Truck's precursor locomotive, together with the 12X, a prototype locomotive. This is more or less the technology that was later developed to the Truck's locomotive, the 146.0 as the Truck's 1, and the 146.2 that we just drove in the service as the Truck's 2 locomotive. And then later the 147 respectively. The 187 is the Truck's 3 locomotives, and more of that family. And this is more or less the grandmother of our locomotive that we drove, and it is still in action. And soon enough, and this is already not Sicily or south of Italy, but Cornwall and Devon. He said 187. Rivet anyone. Spectre, I know this is triggering you, but we have to accept that it is in the game. Ah, no, Skyhook. We did not hear a lot from Skyhook lately, haven't we? Well, yeah, the 187. Actually, we need a Trucks 3 in the game. Now that we have the Vectron, what is really a nicely implemented locomotive. And the expert locomotives cannot be that the Trucks 3 is actually missing. So the 147 should come sometime. Yes, British trains. For British trains, I would like to run a service in Preston. Dresden to Preston. We have to jump. We cannot go by rail from Dresden to Preston. We could actually through the Eurotunnel, but we would have to switch a bit. So let's find our marker for that. Dresden, Blackpool Branches I need now. What did I note down for that service? 10. This one. Driving a Pacer, and a Pacer, in my opinion, is always like the railway equivalent for comfort food. Driving a Pacer is just nice. Let's find the Blackpool Branches timetable, and where is my Pacer? Here it is. Let's take the newest one. Then we don't have to drive. From Blackpool North to Preston, we go into November maybe, with light clouds, and start the service. Blackpool Branches again. And here we go. Driver, obviously. That's me fiddling with the markers. Thinking, well, I have enough time because the game is loading in anyway. Alright, here we are. Master key. Guard, unlock the doors. Where we are headed, by the way, to Leeds. To Leeds. Oh, that is actually quite... So this handle always has to point to the front end of the train. Then the writing should be aligned properly. Oops! That was too fast. No. And back to where we came from. Which could have set the destination light on the back cab. Destination light. Interesting destinations on that destination board, yeah. At any rate, we found the one that we needed. This train does not differentiate between night and day driving. We have the old radio. Only safety system that we can activate is the AWS here. Well, it's quite okay because we don't have a lot of AWS magnets in the track anyway. Did I forget anything? Reverser to neutral as long as the doors are open. Let's close the doors. Yes, guard, thank you so much. Can we see our signal, by the way? Not really.
The next stop is Preston, where this train terminates.
See, we're only going one stop. It's 15 running out of the station here. Now our exit signal is visible. And we will be getting one more route from Just Trains that involves Preston. Not with Trains in World 6, but later. The Preston Docker in the house. Nice. Blackpool North. Yeah, I can feel you, Spectre, while you are playing UK trains. It has a quite unique feel to it, the British trains. Here the speed limit increases to 70. Yeah, but I also like US content, and I want more US content, more differentiated US signaling, safety systems, PTC systems. The more variety, the more stuff that I don't know, the better. So, my little pacer, you can accelerate to 70, that's almost your maximum speed. Spectre, maybe it is because I am German and know the German trains from real life. Yeah, UK is more exotic to me, also very easy to drive while listening to podcasts and other stuff. That is true. That is true. American trains are typically much harder to drive, and especially to stop and brake at the stations. And oh, we're going to the left. No, we're not going to the left. That was just the the distance signal. That's the thing that happens if you just look up. See the radar, I am still not decided whether the deluxe edition is worth it for me or just to go with standard. Well, this I was wondering with Trains in World 5. Whether deluxe was the Pendolino and green Vectron, right? More or less. This year it would be no question for me to go with the deluxe. 3 locos. 3 interesting locos, as it is. The Voyager, obviously, a thing that everyone is crazy about. The 294, as I said, super interesting for me. Oh. I missed my brake! I hope we won't derail, we are much too fast. Ding, now we're actually beyond the 3. I would appreciate the 5-day early access the most, I see. Well, yeah, then. So if you're actually class 142 Riesa, it is a race train. It is an express train, but here's another limit to 20, I have to obey to that. Normally I have as a breakpoint the signaling box and the signal, but I was reading the chat and so I missed it. And then I saw the signal at the end of the straight and thought, oh my god, we should be much slower already. Is the pacer comparable with the DBBR 628? It feels a bit the same, but I think the 628 is a much more advanced train. Pacer has single axles. It is virtually a bus on rails. And the 628, it looks a bit like a shoebox on rails, but it is actually a quite advanced vehicle with a magnetic track brake. So I always thought, yeah, those two things can be compared, but to be honest, there are other vehicles in Germany that can be compared to the Pacer. Starting with the Uerdinger Schienenbus. Ferkeltaxi. Yeah. Yes, those for example. But the 628, especially the 628.4, I think was really an advanced thing, an advanced vehicle with advanced technology for its time. Some components actually overpowered, like the braking system, just past the increase from 50 to 70. Also the cooling system and transmission and everything is quite advanced on the 628s. And CD Racer 628s are surprisingly very comfortable, or at least the modernized by Arriva here. Yeah, well, if you look at the bogies under 628, they are quite advanced. Pieces of running gear. There's no comparison to running on single axles. but this does not take away the charm of a pacer at all. Now we're getting in this nice rocking motion of the pacer. While we're going to Kirkham and Wesham. But before arriving there, I think it is time to get to the British part of the presentation. And then run to Preston. So, what are we getting in Train Sim World 6 for the British part? This is, as I said, not southern Italy, but southwest England, with Cornwall here and with Devon. And what do we have here on this part of the map? Well, just to always forget this, this is most of the UK, missing again part of northern Scotland. Orkneys, Shetlands are not in this part of the map. You can see London, Birmingham, Manchester, Leeds and Ireland on the other side, and here a little bit of France. Why are you laughing, City Raider? And where are we here? This is this part of England. Wales here is not on this map. We will get a bit of Wales later on the next map when we see what else is coming to the game. So Train Sim World 6, what do we have? Already in the game is the West Cornwall local line. Ah, it's not a laugh. Oh, I'm sorry. What is it then? I was actually misinterpreting your text. St. Austell to Penzance, or the other way around. St. Ives to St. Earth here. The branch line, last time I played it was when I did the tribute stream for my deceased dog, my Chili. So I will always remember this DLC in connection with that. And this is what we already have in the game. In Devon we did not have anything yet, and so we are getting the Riviera line Exeter to Plymouth, and also the branch line to Peyton. A lot of hype. Many people are really excited about it. It is definitely a nice line with going here along the seacoast. So this is why it is called the Riviera line, I guess. It was fun to play when we did this at the Play Labs at DTG a couple of weeks ago. So I'm totally looking forward to that one. And yeah, it's the first in this part of England here. Riviera line, Exeter to Plymouth and Peyton. What do we get? Again here the official route summary slide. Here are the stations that we're getting. 14 from Exeter St. David's to Plymouth, and 11 here is Peyton. Yeah, 60 miles, 14 stations, beautiful route. I am also excited to get this route. What do we get in trains? Spectre Tiger, do you know whether the GWR HST and GWR 166 will layer onto the Riviera line, or is it set in a different time period? Then I don't actually know. I have not seen them layering in when I played the game. I think that they talked about it, but they were not definite about it yet. But I cannot tell you for sure. I know that other people asked whether they will be layering in, and the other trains are layering out, and we will see. We will get a Great Western Railway remaster, as we have all seen. I won't talk about it today. that looks really cool, in my opinion, so I'm totally looking forward to that. And what happens with the Great Western Railway trains, we will see, but I cannot tell you that. The return, I don't know why was the class 802 actually in the game before? I tried to find out where this train was already in Train Sim World, but I could not find. The 800 and the 801 are obviously in the East Coast Main Line. The Azumas, but the 802, what is, well, a sister train to them, quite close. It's also a Hitachi A train. It is a dual power, a multiple unit train, and unlike the class 800 Azuma, the diesel is not only like for emergencies, a very small diesel engine to move the train around, but this one is actually meant for real, so that this train can go on a diesel. Whether it is obviously a three-phase AC train, if it is powered electrically, probably using IGBT technology, but I could not verify this, but it was from 2018. It should use IGBT technology to run the electrical part. 125 for diesel and 140 miles per hour for electric usage. It will, as I understood, only run on diesel on the Riviera line here in the Great Western Railway livery. Also the Sprinter, the 150, don't know what subclass at the moment. It is diesel hydraulic multiple unit train from 84 with 75 miles per hour maximum in the Great Western Railway livery. You can see it here on the top right. We know that train from West Cornwall Local, for example, also from the Midlands, the Midland Main Line, Leicester to Derby and Nottingham. And here then in the Great Western Railway, the Deluxe Loco for the British part is the class 220 Voyager. Maybe the most celebrated train in Train Sim World 6 from what I can see, so everyone is keen on playing the Voyager because it is a very iconic train, I think. It is a diesel train only, so diesel multiple units built by Bombardier, and then as soon as it is a diesel electric train, obviously, so that it also uses three-phase AC driving motors with IGBT technology from what I have seen from 2001, so maybe there has been a refurbishment or I have read something wrong, with a maximum speed of 125 miles per hour. So all this information I tried to gather together from Wikipedia and other sources to corroborate it, so if there are any mistakes or if I got something wrong, just let me know. This is just so that I can get a first feel for the train and yeah, what they are like. So dual power Japanese train, not unlike the Azuma, but this time with a full-blown diesel engine and a diesel electric multiple unit, the Voyager. That is what we get in Train Sim World 6 for the British part. So if you compare this with the German part, it is definitely not overpowered, I think. It is a nice route. It is a nice train, but not as complex as the new Leipzig-Dresden route and not as eccentric a locomotive as the 294. So I'm definitely looking forward to the British stuff, but you can't say that they gave the British players so much more than the German players, in my opinion. What else is coming to the game after Train Sim World 6 in route DLCs from Take a Ticket? And for that I took this part of England, what is more or less northern Wales and the Western Midlands. up to Manchester, Leeds, so getting closer to the north. Liverpool, Manchester, Leeds, Sheffield, Birmingham. And here is actually a lot, not so much in northern Wales, but in the English part, there's a lot of stuff already in the game. We have since it all began almost, the Northern Transpennine route from Manchester, Victoria to Leeds. Still one of the most beautiful routes in the game, in my opinion. Then we have the Glossop line, Glossop and Hatfield, not from Manchester Victoria, Manchester Piccadilly in this case. Then we have Manchester Piccadilly just recently, the Manchester Airport. That once was supposed to go up to Crewe. Unfortunately, it doesn't, so that we have a little gap here. Then we have the Spirit of Steam, Liverpool Crewe in the abandoned steam era of train sim world. Liverpool upon the Runcorn Gap and then through Cheshire to Crewe. And we have obviously the Birmingham Cross City line between Lichfield, Trent Valley and Bromsgrove and Redditch. And what we are just driving here, the Blackpool Branches, connecting Blackpool south and north with Preston, and from Preston to the south towards Ormskirk. Here we can easily see, well, we know that at Ormskirk the trains don't go on, but the other part of the track is going to Liverpool, and we can see why, because it's obvious. Blackpool Branches, then Preston to Carlisle starts here. One of my favorite routes in the game, I can't deny that. And I almost forgot when I prepared this slide, Leicester Nottingham Derby is always here, also here, the Midland Main Line. Looks quite small compared to the map and the other lines that we have here. Through Loughborough, Long Eaton. And what is that? That is actually the East Coast Main Line coming in here. Peterborough, what is just outside the map here, through Grantham, Newark-on-Trent, Retford, and then to Doncaster. So why it is called the East Coast Main Line is not really apparent here, but nevertheless, this is that part of the East Coast Main Line that is quite far removed from the East Coast. All that stuff is here in this part of the map, and we're now getting two routes that connect a lot of it. And the first one is Birmingham to Crewe, what will be the first route coming out after Train Sim World 6 from a new third-party company, Aboard Studios. Power through the Black Country with the class 350 during the 2019 era. Enjoy a varied timetable with layers to energize the West Coast Mainline experience, and first add-on arriving after the launch of Train Sim World 6. So obviously part of the West Coast Mainline, and 2019 era, so not so far removed in time. Train-wise, we're not getting a new train as such, but we're getting new subclasses. The Siemens T0350 is already in the game since the Train Sim World 5 core route of the West Coast Main Line from London Euston to Milton Keynes, what is obviously in the south here. And from Milton Keynes there is this part that goes through Rugby to Birmingham, what will be the only part of the West Coast Main Line between London Euston and Carlisle that we don't have in the game, even if it is different eras that the parts are in. So, but from what Alex said on the release, on not the release stream, but on the roadmap stream the other day, it should get at least 3 subclasses, the stroke 1, 2 and 3. There's one more, the stroke 4, but I don't really know if there are big differences. I know that the stroke 1 compared to the other subclasses is a dual system train. That means you can use third rail and overhead catenary, whereas the stroke 2 and stroke 3 trains apparent only can use the overhead catenary. Electric multiple units, 3-phase AC IGBT, what most modern electric trains Sport. So this will be this, and then to connect the dots, Crewe to Preston, and this is the third route, culminating in Preston, a Just Trains route, Crewe to Preston. Next English route from Just Trains, that also did the Blackpool branches and the Preston Carlisle. Take a busy section of the West Coast Main Line in northwest England and high-speed runs between Preston and Crewe. Yes. Set in 86, so Just Trains is keeping to their agenda and bringing the blue British Rail era back to life in 86, and with immense timetable. Hop aboard the electric class 86/4. The 86/4 we had in the Preston Carlisle, the 87 that we played a lot. Then as a separate Loco DLC, the 86/2 so far. Spectre says driving the 86 is great, looking forward to that route. Yeah, tap changer, Loco, pre-thyristor. We have a video about this with the 87 driving from Preston to Carlisle. I don't have a video about the 86/2 that is in the game. So far, the 86/4 is a Loco that did not get its FlexiCoil suspension earlier, but I guess it is not so different from the 86/2. The 86/2 got the FlexiCoil suspension in the bogies earlier than this one, and the /4 is a Loco that was it's a refurbished /0 and /3 from what I can read, that first got different wheels and then after that the FlexiCoil suspension, because the wheels were not enough to allow a constant running with 100 miles per hour. So we will see if there are differences to the /2 version that we have in the game so far. The Class 20, the chopper, is already in the game since the Train Sim World 2020 era, and the 47 obviously as well, but not the /3 version. So far we have the /4 versions all the time, and the /3 version is a freight version with no train heating and should have a slow speed control. We will see if that is actually what we get with the /3 version. At least this is what I got out of the sources that I managed to access at this point. So always take this with a grain of salt, what I'm telling you about the trains that are coming. I don't know, I have not seen more than what you've seen on the preview streams so far, and what I tried to dig up out of the internet. Yeah, actually almost more excited about this than about the Riviera line, but the Riviera line in Train Sim World 6 will also be a very, very beautiful route and nice to drive. So, British stuff, also true. Then, next thing will be American stuff, but before we get to the American stuff, we should drive our train actually to Preston in one of the 3 DLCs that will feature Preston then. So back to the hopping pacer. So guys, let me know what you think about the British part of Train Sim World 6. I like the Spectre. Yes, so do I. So do I. So we're still approaching Kirkham and Wesham. We are not stopping at Kirkham and Wesham. That means we are probably not going across the switch but running straight through. Whistleboard. That's mainly for waking us up if we fell asleep on this line. This is already the last bridge before we get to Kirkham and Wesham. Then we have this overpath with the caution signal for Kirkham and Wesham. That is at caution. That means we have to slow down. In case we have to stop. TD says, fall asleep in a pacer. Well, this rumbling noise is so soothing. Can we get into the station? Now we can see it. Yes, we can get into the station. We are not going across the switch. We're going straight ahead. So the caution signal. This is actually a thing I should make a video about too. Why is the caution signal on and then the home signal not? Because the starter signal might be on. And this is a funny way of signaling. Unique to the British semaphore days. That we should look into a bit more at some point. Ale kush. Ale means but. But what does kush mean? Well, I will have more opportunity to dig into the Czech language when we get to the Liberec Stará Paka line. So, probably the exit signal was at red. We are now in a 40 limit. Oh, now it's snowing. Snow on the pacer. Now the starter signal cleared, or the, oh well, don't know how you call the signal if you're not at the platform here. The platform that allows you to leave the station area again. Ah, I missed the 30 limit when we're going across the switch. So much for rusty route knowledge again. But now we can go up to 75. Now this part between Kirkham and Wesham and Preston where we pass Selwick. Ronnie, sorry, back now, had to slam my A321 into runway 28 at Zurich first. Yes, got your Airbus down. Happy to hear that everything worked properly. We're in the UK now. Ah, it's always the higher limits to see the radar. The higher limits that I remember. Looks like I'm driving with the taillights on, but that can't be. It's just a weird reflection here. So I think it's Selbig that we are supposed to pass now. It's a weird lighting that we have at the moment. Yeah, this definitely looks like Selbig. Is it Selbig or is it Salford? Selbig, it is. Here's one of the signal boxes with an interior and the golf clubs. And to the right, the smoke from the chimneys of Selbig. You remember, this is where this big plant is, where they built the fuel for the nuclear power plants. This is basically very similar to GD class 810. Oh, I have to look into this, similar to the Czech class 810. Now we have a bit to go, then we will be running next to this road where the construction work is going on. And then we're almost at Preston already. Shoebox on the rails, yes. Yeah, but it is a really charming shoebox. So soon we will have the road next to us. Only 2 minutes left on the clock. Where were we so slow? It's giving Bauer 628 to Ronnie. Now that I would like to see a discussion between Akura and Ronnie about the similarities of 628 and the Pacer. I said before that the 628 is actually a much more advanced train than the Pacer. This time I won't miss the speed limit. This time I won't miss the speed limit. while approaching St. Mark's and St. Warburg. Here's the 35. Here is one of the rare AWS magnets. And what does Ronnie say? I have to slow down to 20 before we get on the switches. So let's do this. And then read what Ronnie says. Dude, that thing pisses me off. The 628 is pissing him off. Not the pacer. I have no idea if they simmer or remember about it. It is continuously delaying me when still working for the S-Bahn because it accelerates like a piece of junk. Yeah, but it brakes like a big one, doesn't it? Caution signal when entering Preston station. So the 628 has a history of slowing down Ronnie while he was still running S-Bahn trains. So what trains did you run when you were working for the S-Bahn? Yeah, but so does a 420, and that actually does accelerate. Alright, the 420 will be coming to Trainsim World 6 in a bit, if TSG actually managed to finish it. Yeah, at Chatham I met a guy, Trainsa, who is also an ambassador and a real-life train driver. And he has a club trying to rebuild a 420 unit. He was wearing a t-shirt saying, if I was a Triebfahrzeug, if I was a locomotive or train, I was a 420. I don't know if it is the 001. If you look on their website, they have one unit lended to them or borrowed to them by DB, and they're trying to raise the money to buy it actually. And he was kind enough to give us all pins depicting a 420. Preston. So Preston Station, we will see Preston Station back when we get Crewe to Preston from Just Trains in a bit. Release date has not been confirmed, but definitely a route that I'm looking forward to. Insane. Just change to the S-Bahn München if you like it that much. Well, if anyone wants to support the good cause, you can find their website and donate money so that they can build this. I have one of the old Arbeitsmappen for the 420 that they used at the time to educate and school their drivers. That was too early. The pacer closes the doors so fast. You can not really close them. Yes. And here you see my speeding mistakes. Spectre sounds like a lot of work to me, like restoring a can of dog food out of a dump. Yeah, I remember when going from Nuremberg to Fürth at this yard of the DB Museum, you can not only see a Bauer 194, a crocodile, standing around, if I'm not mistaken, but also a very, very banged up 420 at the yard, if I'm not mistaken when looking out of the window. So I don't know in what shape their unit is in. Oi, now we're getting personal. 420 is not junk. Oh, they are getting personal now. 420 is... a can of dog food out of a dump, Spectre is, to be fair. So, now we're getting to the USA. And for that I wanted to drive a bit on the Harlem Line. What we have not done in so much time. Not in a lightning storm though. So let me start it and let me change the DLC marker. And trains and world, Harlem Line. And then go backward. What time is that? I found out. It is 6:40 something. 6:48, yes, that one. It is a shorter service. The DLC. Now I got everything confused. This is where the caption has to go. This is the service marker. It is again the Harlem Line. And the 6:48, and then I have to just align them properly. Chunk. Okay, everything good. And what did they say? Yeah, that's the 001. They got it when DB said no to funding it for the S-Bahn München, sort of Museumsfahrten-ish. Sad to see, really. Piece of history, that, says Ronnie. So Ronnie supports the cause. Master key, turn on everything. Doors open. What do we need to do here? Key in, forward, it can stay in neutral. Emergency with max brakes, I think we can charge our brakes. We have to manually blow them up, inflate them to about whatever, 140 psi. I think that's enough. More than 140 psi we should not put into our brake system. It should be overcharged now anyway. Where are the lights? Lights are here. Demo. Now we need bright lights in America. Gauge lights I want always on. Marker lights are off because we don't need them here. This is one of the trains of the era where the train tail lights were always on. Then we need the safety systems. ATC, access, alerter, and deadman. All of them active now. And bell and honk every 2 minutes, the accelerator. 2 inches. I know that you are not a fan of the American content. I definitely am. I always like the American content. I like almost all of it. It's difficult with the freight stuff because no IETMS. Because of Run 8 simulates so much more. But still for me, Sandpatch Grade is the first thing that I ever saw in Transcend World. And this does not go away easily. So what's wrong? Ah, I've got still the reverser in neutral probably. You need it forward so that the brakes actually release. Yes! And now we go! What did I do now? Oh no! What did I do now? Somehow I broke the brakes. I need to inflate them at any rate. Random train faults generated by Tiger without anything happening. Now we're... Aha! Now I know what I'm doing. It's my left Sifa finger. Now I know what I'm doing. I'm hitting the key for the deadman pedal, and that means I'm taking the foot out of the deadman's pedal. Let's switch it off so that my Sifa finger is not holding us back. Look at it. It looks so damn numb. The train. And Ronnie is with CD Radar. So now I can press the deadman pedal as long as I want. And it is not releasing it. And of course you go towards U to accelerate. See, I can't even type. Yeah, guys, I know. It's not everybody's cup of tea. I definitely want the American content in Train Sim World. Yeah, and those are the trains that are accelerating and braking so hard that everyone says this can't be prototypical. And still it is as it is. Gotta get used to the... It brakes so hard, even here. Here we go! At least I managed to get to the next station. At any rate. What do the people say? Spectre says switch off deadman pedal so you can use Sifa on Harlem Line. Well, I switched it off so that my pinky is not actually releasing the deadman pedal all the time. Akura, I wonder where there is... If there is a Train Sim World US community outside the US, maybe there is, maybe in Canada or Puerto Rico there's Spectre, Mexico even. Ronnie, look at it, can't even break the damn thing softly. Now it's just dump. Well, there's a lot of bickering about the American content, CD Radar, but I like the cap of this one. Actually reminds me of the New York subway R211 trains. Yes. Let's go to the presentation. Maybe I have a more fitter mind than to drive the train actually. Spectre. When will Train Sim World introduce AI muggers on Harlem Line and Long Island Railroad? Oh, come on. Ronnie at CD there, so you'd like a random lever placed in the middle of your gap. Guys, I'm celebrating the American content now on my presentation. This is the New York area. You can see here Manhattan in the middle, Long Island to the right, New Jersey, and upstate New York to the left, and at least a bit of it. and yeah, Connecticut in the top right corner. Where are we? This is a map of the United States, Mexico, part of Canada, and the Caribbean. And this little itsy bitsy thing is the New York area depicted on my map here, because the United States are so great and big. Yeah, that lever really ruins its city. Well, you fly planes on your simulator. You have a lever in the middle too, haven't you? What do we have in routes on this on this map? The Long Island Railroad, obviously, in its original part from New York Penn, Jamaica, from the Atlantic Terminal, and then here to Hicksville and to Hampstead. Yeah, but that's also Boeing. And this little bit to the Belmont, where the... What is it actually? The last of the Triple Crown races are at the Belmont race track for the Thoroughbred Racing Series Kentucky Derby. What was the second one called? The Priestess or something like this. And then the Belmont that happens here. I'm an Airbus type guy, so okay. You don't like the lever in the middle. Harlem Line, what we are running at the moment is here. White Plains to not New York Penn, but New York Grand Central. And we have the New York Trenton NEC part from New York Penn again over to New Jersey. Passing Newark and then ending up in Trenton, still in New Jersey, on its way then further on through Delaware and then to Washington, D.C. The Long Island Railroad in the second incarnation got this branch to Long Beach, what is actually quite a big branch if you look at it. And yeah, what is this by a different color here? There was once in the first incarnation of Transam World a route that was called Northeast Corridor New York that connected Newark Liberty Airport with New Rochelle with a little side branch for the freight services. And this is so far actually the only route that did not make the cut to a new incarnation of the game that was no longer playable on the Transam World 2 together with one Switcher DLC that lived on this route. And I've never seen it actually. So maybe I should actually, if I find in some key reseller site a key for that route, I would probably install Transam World 2020 for it just to look into it. Well, not much lost US route, as Ronnie saying. It's not that I don't like it, but at least in the Boeing it has a valid reason to be there, not like on the dump looking train. Okay, this route does no longer exist. It does not carry over to any incarnation of a newer Transam World. But what we're getting in Transam World 6 is this route from New York Penn Station again via Newark in New Jersey and then up into the more rural rural areas. Certified US train haters, says Ronnie. All right, then you stay with the German stuff and the UK stuff. I definitely like the variety. I like the US content. I like the UK content. I like the German content. And I always like content that I have never seen before and that I can dig into. CD Radar and Ronnie, just out of curiosity, do you prefer left-hand or right-hand train driving on combined controller? Now they are getting into it. We're also getting this part to Hoboken, so it is not only New York Penn Station that we're getting, but also the connection here to Hoboken Station, where is a big station, and connecting it with Dover here, what is the Morristown line, New York and Hoboken to Dover. That is in Transam World 6. Signaling wise, it is probably Norrex signaling. What variety, I don't know yet. The interesting part is that this is actually a line that is, from what I know, owned by New Jersey Transit. We had New Jersey Transit trains running on the New York Trenton line, but here they were like a tenant railroad on Amtrak-owned track, as far as I know. Maybe it's not true, but we will figure this out when we talk about this route more often. And New Jersey Transit uses a different PTC system than Amtrak. It is not using Access, but ACES, what is an advanced speed enforcement system over continuous CSS. Could be CCS, continuous cab signaling, and automatic train control. So we have the 9-aspect pulse code cab signaling, in some parts 4-aspect cab signaling, and over that as a PTC system ACES, what is not so dissimilar from Access, but has its own type approval with the FRA. And yeah, can say in New Jersey there is no civility in the speed limits, but it is more or less just a difference in name. It is totally compatible with the Access system run by Amtrak trains, and for the freight trains that are running there, they also should provide an IETMS infrastructure, what will most probably not be in the game because this safety system is not in the game at all. Ronnie says to CD Ray, I honestly don't really care. I've left or right hand driving, to be honest. Though I've only had left hand combi controllers until this point. No combined controllers anymore whatsoever now on the ICEs. Yes, because left hand for the throttle and right hand for the brakes, if I remember correctly. Here again, the official chart for the Morristown line, with the two trains that we're getting. This Arrow 3, you will probably love it because it is like an American train, a very old one, 1977, built by General Electric, what we know already from St. Pat's Grade with the AC44 locomotive line. It is a diesel multiple unit with ending up in 3-phase AC GTO. From what I have seen, I am not entirely sure if that is all true, what I've tried to figure out. So a diesel electric multiple unit with GTO technology, and in 1977. But I think this is a refurbishment. They did not start their existence in 77 with GTO technology. Can't happen time-wise. But I think this has been a refurbishment to make them end up with 3-phase AC driving motors. Top speed 80 to 100 from what I have been able to figure out. Quite funny way of driving them from what you can see in the previews. No reverser, but just putting your driving lever to forward or to backward. Wow. Will be interesting train to drive, this Arrow 3, if you are not among that part of my community that does not like US content at all. The Deluxe Loco will be the ALP45 dual power. DP for dual power, that means it can do diesel and it can do electric, built by Bombardier, just as the ALP46 that we already know from the New York Trenton line. And yeah, well, this is not an entirely American train because it is more or less an Americanized version of the 101, the Baureihe 101 locomotive that we know from the Expert locomotive DLC now mostly, and already the AAP 46 is a 101. Poor 101 is a CD Raider. Yeah. They went to America and they are doing great there. Only New Jersey Transit is using the AAP46. The AAP45 dual power is also used in Montreal in Canada by EXO, from what you can find on the internet. It's a three-phase AC Drehstrom locomotive, obviously. Funny enough, Ronnie, you know what also went to America and rejected? Let me know. I will have to decide whether I read it out or not. The interesting part actually is that the ALP 46 is the older locomotive. It was built, or the ALP 46s that are used by New Jersey Transit were built in 2001 to 2002. There is a newer version, so a second batch that they bought that is usually called ALP 46A. But the ALP 45 DP, even though the number is lower, is the newer locomotive from 2010 with the more modern three-phase AC variable frequency and variable voltage drives, not GTO technology, but IGBT technology. Can go a bit faster, therefore, and can switch power. And from what Matt explained on the Transit 6 roadmap stream, you actually need this changeover because you are not allowed to go into Hoboken with your electric traction on. So this is where you need to switch to diesel and back. Then what got to America and got rejected is the ICE-1, apparently ineffective. Yes, that's true. Well, they didn't want the ICE-1, and then they chose the Acela. And Acura, it's said that ALP could have become a 101. I'm trying to I'm not trying to sell you the American content. I'm trying to keep your minds open, people, for other things that what we always know and see in real life. That is what Train Sim World is about, in my understanding, to see that things in different countries are just as great as they are in our own countries, and that you can do things in different ways and it is still great. Talking about the 101 soldiers stolen from Germany, brought to America, suspect. It was not stolen, it was sold by Bombardier for reconnaissance. At any rate, this is what we're getting for the American content. From what I've heard, the American players are not so super happy about what they got with Morristown line and those locomotives. I am... No, it's just a meme, says City. No, it's just a meme. I know the American stuff. Well, I'm totally looking forward to it. I always like, especially the parts of the American routes with the trees and those little valleys and those endless stretches, and coming then into the urban area in New York. So this will be great. I'm totally looking forward to it. Bombardier soldier. Thanks for the EU. Oh, stop talking about soldiers and tanks. Those are locomotives transporting civilians. And even if New Jersey Transit does not like the civilian speed limit, the civil speed limit, it is still a civil speed limit that this system is enforcing, is it not? And we're getting more American content, if you want it or not. We are getting this line here between New York Grand Central Station and Stamford. Not in Train Sim World 6, but after, as a standalone DLC. From DTG, so not from a third party, but DTG again, because there are no third parties for American content. Unfortunately, we have to say, because that would be really great. Typically, third party providers get more interesting stuff and have more expertise for the routes than DTG can have as a single unit located in Great Britain. Head to the US and explore the Northeast Corridor with local New York freight. So local New York freight here on the NEC. Actually, this part that I painted here is not the NEC until this point here at New Rochelle. But this is the Harlem Line for the Metro North part. But you can do both. Choose to head off from Grand Central Terminal to Stamford via the Metro North route. That would be that what is already here in the chart. Or New York Penn to Stamford via the NEC route. That is New York Penn here. And then this route that we had in the old DLC that is no longer in existence, at least part of it, and they bring back this very, very scenic bridge here so that it is back in the game. So except for this little freight connector here, the old route will be back in the game. Obviously not used again, but brought up to new standards. And then we have the connection from Newark Liberty Airport via New York Penn and New Rochelle, and then it goes even on to Stamford and connects to New York Grand Central as well. And they are building the second floor of the Grand Central station in this DLC, from what I have understood. So a lot of American content in New York. I'm almost really excited about this route here. This will be very interesting. And then this part of the NEC. Further on, there is the NEC part, Providence, Boston. But for that, we actually have to cross through Connecticut, get to Rhode Island, and then we can go on to Massachusetts. And from Trenton on, the rest of the NEC to Washington is also what still has to be built. Signaling wise, we will have Metro North signaling on the Harlem part, and then Norfolk signaling on the NEC part. This will most probably be access 2 over ATC in the Amtrak version, and this DLC will have a new loco, the M8 train that you guys probably won't like. Again, it is a Kawasaki train, so it's a Japanese built train, electro multiple unit, 3-phase AC IGBT, and it is a dual system. That means you can take different voltages from overhead or third rail. Built in 2011 with a maximum speed of 80 to 100 miles per hour. So even if nobody in my community is excited about American content, I definitely am. I mean, I'm looking forward to both of those lines. And then, before we actually drive our train home to, yes, we are the city. Be that as it may, very excited I am also about the new countries that we're getting, and I am doing the presentation now to the end, and then drive the train home to the Grand Central Terminal in the Harlem Line. This is the long-awaited Tadami line. We have Japan here. You can see the Japanese islands, and this is where we are, so to the north of Tokyo. In this area, you can see the end station for the Tadami line, Aizu Wakamatsu, and it starts at Koide. At this point, the Tadami line, Union Workshop is building it and has been building it for quite some time now. You have to travel across fields of the Aizu area and along the picturesque valley of Tadami River in 2010 era. It is actually quite long. The whole thing is according to the Japanese Wikipedia page. Kara, what are you doing? Can you not lay down on the couch and be civil? And with a maximum speed of 65 kilometers, so we're actually getting the whole line. This will be a long drive, a long slow drive, going the whole 135 kilometers. And with 65 kilometers, that will be more than 2 hours. You can easily judge that even without stopping. And Journey Passes will probably be a very expensive DLC due to the long development. We will see how much it will actually cost. But they cannot charge us an arm and a leg for it, even though everyone is really excited about it and waiting for it. We will see. We will definitely see. 2010 era, so it is dated back a bit. It is operated by JR East Japan Railway Company, so much is for sure. According to the Japanese Wikipedia page that I translated automatically, it uses a special automatic block signal system. And safety system wise, an automatic train stop system in a sub variety that is called ATSSN on the route itself and ATSPS at the stations. Have to look into this, what this actually involves, when we're getting closer to the release. Very, very interesting for me looking into Japanese train protection systems. The train that we will be getting is a Kiha 40 DMU, diesel multiple unit, built by Fuji and Niigata in the year 77 until 83. So actually an oldish thing. It is more or less classic diesel multiple unit with a hydraulic transmission, with a top speed of 95 kilometers per hour from what I have been able to find out. So this will be an interesting DLC with a nice train. At the moment they have, or currently they have, modernized trains and sold the old trains of that kind to Myanmar and other countries. From what you can see, then see Riesa, if it takes them a while longer, they will have to remake it into Trains in World 8. Yeah, probably. If it always takes a year to get the route up to date with the new features, then this will be a long run. I'm totally looking forward to that route. That is already Portugal. I have a document specifying Japanese signaling. But we will talk more about this when we're getting closer and can actually do an unboxing stream of this route. Portugal. Spectre is still around. This is the Portuguese route that we are getting. Where are we in the world? This is the Iberic Peninsula with Spain. You can see part of France here. You see Gibraltar. And this is Portugal. Here is Lisbon. Yes, Spectre is still here. Great. He's the apparent Portugal expert at the moment. So this part is what you can see on the map, and this is what we will get as a route here. Lisbon to Setúbal. First ever Portuguese route in Trains in World from a new Trains in World development partner, Virtua Via 360. 45 kilometer stretch from Lisbon to Setúbal across the 25 de Abril, well, I don't know how to pronounce 25 in Portuguese, de Abril Bridge. A major Portugal landmark. Yeah, definitely. That is a spectacular one. Operates suburban services with the new series 3500 EMU. And experience Portuguese safety systems and signaling, adding an all-new challenge to learn. Yes. 25. Alright. 25 de Abril. Bridge? Porto? I don't know. All new content, yes. Provider, probably Comboios de Portugal in the regional thing. CP original, this train, the 3500 UMU, is a Alstom and CAF train from what I've maybe have found out. It is a it is a double-decker EMU, if I'm not mistaken, if I did not get the wrong. Ponto 25 de Abril, says Spectre. I see. Good. Perfect. Ponte 20. Not vinte, but vince. 25 de Abril. Fine. Oh, forgot a 9 here. 1989, 1999, 140 kilometers maximum. So a double-decker EMU. I think this is a new one. Didn't have a double-decker EMU so far, if you don't count the duplex TGV, of course. Yeah, and the safety systems and signaling. I have already dug into it, and the signaling rules seem to be issued by this institute, Instituto de Mobilidade y dos Transportes, and they issue those Regulamento General de Seguranza. SINAIS. SINAIS is obviously the plural of signal. Sinal. And, well, I have to find out how to read that in Portuguese. At least I found the document. And the safety systems that they are using is Convel. It's called Convel, and it is essentially an Alstom-built EBICAP 700 safety system based on balises. So not unlike the SUB or ETCS level 1. How it actually works, I have to look into that. There is an Regulamento General de Segurança Part 5 that deals with this system. Maybe we can find what we need in that. That was Portugal. So also very excited to get the Portuguese stuff and to find out what actually ends up in the game. Czechia. Or, to be more exact, the Czech Republic. They still call it Czechia when you have to call it Czech Republic. And this is where we are. Again, the map. To the left you can see Germany, the Leipzig, Dresden area that I had in the beginning, and this is the whole of Czechia. Here you can see Poland with Katowice, what we all know from SimRail. The first half of Łódź that we had in the last DLC for SimRail that we have not played on Steam, actually. So you can see how this all fits together. This is Vienna. And somewhere around here starts the Semmeringbahn, Slovakia. We don't have any route in Slovakia so far. And this is the part in Czechia where the route is situated. That is the north of the Czech Republic. And Spectre, oh, and they use a different gauge, by the way, so Spectre. And Juniper says, flying to Lisbon tomorrow, maybe I'll get a chance to look at the stations. Yeah, please do that. And send us pictures. They use a different gauge, yeah, that is true. I've read this. Well, we will find out all about all this when we actually get closer to the release of this game. This is the route in the Czech Republic. Liberec to Stará, Paka. Stará means old, if I'm not mistaken. And Nova is the new Paka. So Stará, Paka is the old Paka. And this is the route. Quite long, actually, from what it seems. First ever Czech route in Transcend World, developed by new third-party partners Vector Simulations. Explore the Riesa Mountains in northern Czechia with 80 kilometers of fast-paced single-track mainline. Single-track again, 80 kilometers, so quite long. Drive the class 843 in fields and tight mountain passes. Take multiple classes, 750 engines. So the class 843 is, from what I can find, a diesel multiple unit, a diesel electric with DC driving motors from 97 with a maximum speed of 110 kilometers per hour, built by Marovsko-Leska Vagonka and Studenka. Actually, I'm not quite sure if those are two different manufacturers or only a part of it. And the class 75 engines are from Českomoravská Kolbendáněk, JKD, diesel electric DC driven locomotives, 4 axles, 2 bogies. Studenka is town where they are located. I see. Studenka is where this This manufacturer is located. Great. Then we have this too. And those locos are actually quite old. They came into existence in 1968, but this specific subclass that ended up as 7050 was then refurbished in 1991, from what you can read on, I think it's the German Wikipedia site where I found this. And as Spectre has already pointed out, it is a really funny looking locomotive because it has this goggle part where you can look out that looks a bit like Bender from Futurama, and where he has his eyes in. Spectre this, yeah, definitely. And this reference to Futurama you can find on my Tigerama Discord server. This is the document that CD Radar provided me with a couple of months already ago. Those are the Czech signaling, the rules. And I have to dig into those and find out if 2018 is good enough. Maybe they have amended them in between, but it doesn't say where it is said if it is contemporary, what version we actually need, but we will find out. This is also really, really exciting with all the new stuff that we can dig into. Let's finish the presentation. Those are the routes, those are the locomotives that we are getting. We are already 2 hours and 40 minutes in. It is set to 2018, the CD Radar. Ah, that's great to know. Well then, it is totally the version that we need to discuss the route. Core features, random events. So mainly the core features are random events, and they have signal delays and temporary speed restrictions. I'm very happy about this. Signal delays, I think, will make the train driving more interesting. It is not that you can always see the train is leaving the block bloop and the signal is changing. Allows also a better application of the rules for dispatching trains. If you can't be sure that the signal will change as soon as the service is amended and stuff. So that will be really interesting. Temporary speed restrictions. I am really skeptical about this. Last time we saw temporary speed restrictions was on the East Coast Main Line in one scenario, and it was totally wild how they used the temporary speed restriction sign in this scenario. So I hope they will be better with the temporary speed restrictions. They told me that it will be better. I think JD told me that they have all the assets and stuff, and it will be there. So let's hope that this works. And it does not only have to work in UK, but it also has to work in Germany. And we had one stream about speed restrictions in the Niddertalbahn, and German temporary speed restriction signaling with the LF1 through LF3 is not so super simple, and we have not seen anything of that before. The idea obviously is to give you at the beginning of the service a notice that there will be temporary speed restrictions on your track and where they are, just as it would happen in real life, where you get the speed restrictions communicated in the weekly operating notices or in your LA, for example, or in similar documents. And then you can encounter randomly temporary speed restrictions of that kind that make you slow down and go slower. The signaling is one thing. How this actually gets incorporated into the safety systems in Great Britain, it does not really make a lot of effort. Sometimes you have to have a portable AWS magnet that gives you an additional poop on the AWS system. In Germany, it can get interesting with temporary speed restrictions under LZB, for example. In America, in the US content, the different version of the access system has a quite elaborate way of dealing with temporary speed restrictions on the different lines in the different systems. So this, I think, will be really challenging to do this properly. So temporary speed restrictions, we talked about this on the stream about the BTA commuter line, Boston Worcester. They are typically communicated by radio in advance. When you approach a certain junction, you get a file of temporary speed restrictions sent in. And if that works as intended, at the time when we were at the Dovetail studios, we could not test the temporary speed restrictions. They were not in the build at the time. So this will be interesting. Train faults? Yes. Same. We will see how much sense that makes. It cannot be as elaborate as the train faults on the Expert 101, for example, because most of the trains do not really have the fuses and the equipment to show you what is wrong, in my opinion. Some trains might have the fuses, but not the indicators or not the screens on the on their screens to properly communicate what is wrong. We will see what actually happens. There is, I think, the idea to provide only a limited range of faults and not really complicated faults, so like wipers not working anymore and stuff, fuses blown. Spectre, I think it will be defects that do not really prevent you from driving, like lights or wipers. Yeah, that's what it says. Again, selling bugs as features. Yes, CD radar. As long as it can be fixed while driving the service, I can live with it. Well, bugs as features. I can see that this can be fun. But I also can see this is very annoying if it doesn't really make sense. What I don't really like is that they should be communicated by an more or less message on the HUD and not by something that happens on the implemented cab, like on the Expert locomotives, right? So and everything that is communicated not by the train but by some pop-up window somehow breaks the immersion for me. Train mechatronic World 6 Acura. Yeah, maybe we will see how much mechatronic they manage to get in, like random emergency brake or make circuit breaker opens this Juniper. Yeah, emergency brake, I actually don't know if that comes into that. We have this on the Expert Loco. There you can have an emergency brake initiated by a passenger. Sometimes you have to override it. And main circuit breaker open. Something like this can happen, like the main circuit breaker can open because whatever thing overloads or whatever. Lights and wipers they mentioned. Brakes were mentioned, but actually if your brake system has a fault or gets faulty or is malfunctioning, this typically prevents you from driving. And whether they can actually simulate faults in a way that you have to disable the brakes on a certain car, for example, that would be great in my view. So if you actually can have a stock brake on a certain car that you have to identify, and then you can already disable the brake distributor on that car and run with the remaining train on with. Obviously you have to recalculate your brake percentage actually, but that would be something that makes sense, I think. But we will have to see how it works. I like that they try to implement random events. How it plays out and if it just gets annoying, we will see. If you don't like it, you can always switch it off, as they say in the settings. If you don't want it, you can just disable it, and if it actually works, unless the allocation of some keyboard shortcuts, then you don't hear of it anymore. So that is more or less the core features. And then there is the acoustic part, the sound part of the core features. Platform and on-train announcements celebrated a lot. So this platform announcements, I won't hear them that much because I will typically be in the cab and run my train and not stand around on a platform that much. But if you like doing this in the game, it definitely enhances the immersion. So those announcements we already heard in the playtest part at DTG, and this is great. On-train announcements can actually help you to not miss your stop, because if you hear the announcement that is done automatically, you think, oh yeah, I have to stop at this station. And you can probably use it even as a brake marker. For that, on some trains you actually have to cheat a bit, because if you're sitting in your Loco and pulling train cars or passenger coaches that are not like in an EMU or DMU connected, then you would probably not hear this announcement, and so you have to switch on a setting that it actually makes you listen in to the announcements that are on the train. So that is definitely a good thing. All that stuff is that only on new trains? I think most of it will only happen on new routes, on new trains. It will be interesting if actually all new routes and new trains that come into existence, also with the third-party content, will sport it. But if anything of that dates back to older routes, then it is the exception and not the rule. Some of that stuff does not make sense. The train faults for wipers not working, you obviously can't have that on steam engines or whatever, or you cannot have the announcements on the older trains that did not have the announcements in real life. So some of it might actually date back, but you can't expect it. So if it happens, then it's great. If not, then not for Leipzig, Dresden. I think it should come for Leipzig, Dresden, yeah, where they update all the trains to have the announcements. This is too much asked for me. I think they should update the trains that are mentioned on the summary card, like the ICT and the Talent 2 and what was it? The 146 Dostos. Obviously not on the freight trains pulled by the 185. If those trains actually have those announcements in real life, not all those trains have those announcements in real life. But I don't know. We will see what we get. The general rule is we can expect stuff only on new routes and trains, and whatever dates back. For me, the most interesting part is the temporary speed restrictions, really, because we did not have that, and it opens new possibilities for a signaling driving without HUD, is more interesting than if you have to really look at the route and don't drive only by from memory. And how this can be implemented and how precisely this will be implemented, especially under different safety systems, will be super interesting to see. But this is where I'm most skeptical about that it will work as intended. Passenger ambience, yeah, same thing. I typically don't move among my passengers, but I'm sitting in the cab. Nice enough anyway. And now, the biggest problem of Trains in World 6, in my idea, Epic Game Store. You have to go to the frequently asked questions document to find out that if you buy your Trains in World 6 game on the Epic Game Store, you can only take this limited number of DLCs from Trains in World 5 to Trains in World 6. So if you own other DLCs under Trains in World 5, You will obviously still be able to play those DLCs under Train Sim World 5, but not under Train Sim World 6. And Epic Games Store will only support a curated selection of the most played compatible content, and those are these. If you count them, they are exactly 60 of, according to my count, of 132 possible DLCs that you can have at the start of Train Sim World 6, and so you lose, if you have the full collection at this point, more than half of your DLCs. This is devastating for everyone who invested over the years in the Epic Games Store, like I did. So it's not a secret that I have my primary installation of the game on the Epic Games Store, and this will maim my collection, obviously. I have most of the DLCs that carry over. It's just one route DLC that I don't own. So 59 will carry over if I get the game on the Epic Games Store, but the rest doesn't. And well, if you buy more and more and more DLCs, you want to get the collection completed, and you know how miffed I was that the Expert Loco 101 gameplay pack did not release on the Epic Games Store, and this is obviously much more devastating for everyone who's playing on the Epic Games Store. And I don't know what is the reason. I don't know if they actually published a reason why this is not working. The fact that they can curate a selection, that they can actually choose which DLCs carry over and which not, points to the idea that it is not so that some DLCs work and some DLCs don't, but it seems to be the number of DLCs that is the problem, and maybe there is some undocumented limit in the Epic Games Store about how many DLCs can be attributed to one title. I think that Matt talked on a stream about a similar problem in the rush hour time on a console, PlayStation 4 or 5 or whatever, where there was a limit to the number of DLCs that could exist for a certain title, and they somehow got around this. But this would be a thing that cannot be solved by DTG alone, but obviously something that the Epic Games Store has to fix. It is so that, in my understanding, Epic Games Store is in an economical view not important for the game, that there are not really a lot of players who are playing on the Epic Games Store. But since the game is using the Unreal Engine, the license agreement requires everyone who uses the Unreal Engine to make the stuff that is produced on the Unreal Engine available on the Epic Games Store. So they cannot just unlist their stuff from the Epic Games Store, but it is obviously a dilemma if they have to make it available and cannot make it available in the same extent, or to the same extent as they can make it available on Steam and most consoles, for example. So I have not heard of this problem before. I read it in the frequently asked questions after I read something about it on the new Dovetail Games server. It was not communicated before, and you need to go to the frequently asked questions to see that. And I have a feeling that Dovetail Games also got more or less sucker punched by this problem, and they did not see that coming when JD was declaring, when Train Sim World 6 was announced, that all content except for the Caltrain stuff will carry over. Yeah, so much for that. this means that everyone who wants to go on getting the collection completed has to switch to Steam, and so I will have to do this. This is obviously hurting, not only because you have to rebuild the connection. Good thing is I already have a Steam installation, as you know, because I played the gameplay pack, the Expert 101 gameplay pack on my Steam installation with a decent number of DLCs. But this also means that you will lose all your progress that you made in the game. At the moment I have 124 DLCs and Train World 5 on the Epic Game Store, and a playtime of 1272 hours and 52 minutes. That was yesterday evening, I think, on Train World 5 alone. So if you add the same number for Train World 2, 3 and 4, then you end up with a playtime of something between 5,000 and 6,000 hours. And this is what got my profile here, Joe Laurie, on level 2443 at the 9 with a number of 1,588 platinum, 2,402 gold medals, and so on. 155,000 kilometers on trains, that is almost 4 times around the globe. And I guess I will have to retire him because I can't take him to the Steam installation. So Hank has to take over. You'll remember Hank, our conductor, and I think he will have to take over on Steam, starting with level 1. What I don't know is his last name, so maybe you can actually help me with this and give me some suggestions what Hank's last name will be. Isn't the profile linked to Dovetail Live, not to Eric? The profile is linked to Dovetail Live, but it is different to Eric. Yeah, Epic Game Store. I can log into Dovetail Live with the same account, but for different incarnations of the game on different platforms. The profile will be stored in my Dovetail Live account in different ways. So I have my Epic account and my Steam account in different parts. So from what I cannot see in so far is how I can get my player profile to Steam, I don't think. Hank Kerchief. Thank you, Spectre. Hank Smile Sides. And Alice says Hank Ryder. That is nice. Well, post it, please, somewhere on the Discord server. And because this chat here in Twitch is ephemeral, so it will vanish and I will not be able to access it anymore. And maybe then we can have a community vote on that and see the result. From what I've seen so far, the Czech route has raised a lot of enthusiasm in the gaming community, and a lot of people seem to like it, and it could attract quite a few new players. And the photos look absolutely great. I totally share this opinion, and I'm happy that we have the Czech route. Even though I will probably have to play it on the Steam Game Store now, on Steam, and can't play it on the Epic Game Store. Maybe they find a solution to get around this, but probably not so fast. And Juniper, no Dutch route, not even on the horizon, is surprising. Yeah, that is true. I actually expected more Dutch routes, and a lot of people were a bit surprised and obviously disappointed that there was no Dutch route. Lots of surprises, CD-Rea says, but I think it is because there is the Dutch route that we've seen was not a third-party route, but a DTG route, and when we are seeing less and less DTG produced routes, then they have to distribute their capacities to other things. And I guess with a new game release like TSW6, they cannot deviate too far from the idea of providing a British, a German, and an American route, because if you want to do British, American plus Central European, for example, then you might actually get all the German players against you. Not me, obviously. I could live without a German route in a new incarnation of the game, but well, I'm happy to have them as they are. Still, I hope that we will get more Dutch routes. I want to see that tunnel regime with the G signal and the Entreesnelheid and the Adviessnelheid in the game. So maybe at some later point. Spectre, I hope there will be more Czech routes and rolling stock, including such that can run on Dresden, Leipzig, like the multi-system Loco. The fact is that there are so many locos and routes that I would welcome in the game. I would welcome more Canadian routes. I would welcome more Austrian routes, French routes, anyway, that I could not actually say what I would like to remove from the set of routes that we have been announced so far in favor of other routes. All in all, I think that the set of routes and locos that are announced with Trains in World 6 is much better than was announced with Trains in World 5, and I'm totally looking forward to it. And even if I was not an ambassador, I would get the Deluxe edition right away. Spectre, I think they have to cluster it somehow in order to have layers and cross-border. That is one. Oh, yeah. That is another aspect. If you have routes like Japan, Czech, and well, Czech maybe not so much, but Portuguese. Then there are not a lot of layers to and from other routes. What does Akura say? Is the Dutch soil not even more flat than northern Germany's? Yes, totally. This is what I discussed with Jamie at the Dovetail Studios. That Dutch routes, just as northern German routes, tend to be flat. And if you don't have a dynamic speed profile, then it can tend to be a tad boring. And still hoping for the... What train is... The ore train. Sorry guys, I have to leave the Spectre. See you next time. See you next time, Spectre. The core train. I don't even know what train that is. Ah, IO from... Ach, das was CU. From Kiruna. I will have to look that up. Here you can see that I am not really a born train enthusiast, that I don't know this train. Is there a speed limit coming up? Only past Wakefield. But is that really true? Ah, I guess it is. You might remember the stream about the signaling system of Metro North, where you almost always have the green flashing light that refers to the cab signaling. Here, normal speed, limited, medium, restricted. Now we got a limited cab signal. This is why we heard the beeping and we were for a short period in overspeed. Harlem Line is still a Trains in World 2 era DLC, if I remember correctly. And I love driving those trains, even if nobody else loves those American trains. Even though they are a bit OP in this DLC. Axis speed is 60, but we have still the limited on the ATC. Because we will most probably go around the avoiding track. And here we will get also an axis limit of 45. This is why the cab signaling slowed us down a forehand, I think, for the switches. Here the limit dropped. In this installation of the access system, we don't get a countdown, unlike what we've seen on the Boston Booster route on the HSP 46 locomotive. Now at the next code change point here, it should upgrade. Yes, and it did. Train has to run its length. Signal graded up, and also the access speed limit graded up after the train has run its length. We can accelerate to 75. Passing this bus depot here. We're not stopping anymore before we get to the 125th Street. Getting some drops of rain. I think we already have to slow down because there will be a drop to 60 or something around this corner. Let's see if I'm right or not. My rusty route knowledge. Oh, rain. What a rare event. Well, I guess on the Czech route we will never get any rain. And here is the drop in speed limit. But it should increase to 75 again soonish. Yeah, it's really a hard rain. If you set up dynamic... Ooh, look where those people are walking. Close to the edge. If you set up dynamic weather, you get always rain. Says CD Radar. Well, I do not only love American content, I also love a nice bit of rain. And CD Radar is right, says CD Radar. Yeah. Increase to 75, train has to run its length. And then power through this part in the canal. There's one station set in this part here. And we can pass at speed. Here. The funny thing is that part of that line shares tracks with my local line, says CD Radar. What? Part of that line? No, you're talking about the Czech route, not the Harlem route. So here's the siding with this red mid-beam car. Now that would be a surprise, yeah, actually. I can't come up with a plausible solution. US-Czech shared lines would be wild. Maybe in a multi-dimensional universe. Here was a drop to 60 that we anticipated properly. Yeah, in the rain we cannot see that this game does not really feature a proper skyline for New York. But the new Trains in World 6 routes will feature a proper skyline for New York, as is promised. So when leaving the tunnel here, there will be a drop in speed limit. Whoosh, here's the rain coming in to 45. This time actually signaled. Here was it announced. And soon we will pass the execution sign, if I'm not mistaken. Here it comes. Here. Oh, it was 40, not 45. Should read the signs better. And some of the switches is even lower. It is one of the bleed-ins that we still have. Yep. And now we're approaching increased again to 35. Train has to run the length. Unfortunately, we cannot really enjoy the view of the bridge in this weather, in this dramatic weather. Sometimes there's even a freight train passing underneath on that line here. Yeah, why would we not proceed as signals indicate? Now approaching 125th Street. Speed limit should increase before we get there. But it does not make sense because we actually have a lot of time to arrive there. From 30, 800 feet. Let's see where we end up with. Probably the brake is still in the minimal brakes, too strong. $200 for 15, 220 for 15 maybe. Schlick, schlag, schlick, schlag, schlick, schlag, schlick, schlag, bong. Here we are. See, there is the section between Turnov and Železný Brod. Actually, in Turnov, the 070 route from Prague through my hometown ends, and 030, represented in the game, continues. Oh, that is sweet. So we have to travel this part together at some point in time. Make a community event out of it. So, we're in Harlem. As you can see, over there behind the houses is Central Park. At the front there is the south of Manhattan. And Grand Central Terminal, where we are running in as soon as we're done here. Acura. This train does not beeping and ringing as much as expected after the Mach 7 and G by the others. UK AWS Czech trains can be quite louder and more annoying. Well, actually, I do not do all the honking for approaching and leaving a station and ring a bell. Probably I should do that. At least the honking. Oh, I already closed my doors. Good thing that they do that fast. I actually really like those stainless steel trains that they have in America. But then on the other hand, I almost like everything as we have established. At least if it is done well. And with the right mind. Increase to 60. Train has to run its length. And obviously we don't have any level crossing, so I don't do the 14L pattern and ring the bell on this line here. So, get ready for entering the tunnel. And this part of the line here should also be part of the New York Stamford DLC that has been announced. And in this DLC here, the Great Central Terminal only has one level, and in the new DLC it is supposed to have 2 levels. You can probably see it on the map already. See the radar Grand Central Station. It's grand and it's central and it's station. Yes. What I always find mesmerizing is that you have 2 Grand Central stations in Manhattan, the Grand Central Station and the New York Penn Station, and they are not connected by trains. So now that we are approaching the terminal, we will get flagged down by cab signaling. Acknowledge, brake assurance, slow down below the limited speed of 45. Soon enough we will get the medium. Of 30. And soon enough the restricting. We could also do it like on the TVM 430 system on the TGV and anticipate the drop and slow down. But then we have to crawl with 15 miles into the station if we want to anticipate it. We can hear a train from the other tunnel. Yeah, and this fact with the two big station points you always back to the time when every railroad had their own station in town. So the Pennsylvania Railroad had the Penn Station in New York, and the Grand Central Railroad, the Grand Central Station. And after mergers and mergers and mergers, the stations still survive. Because, as we have discussed, rail tracks cannot be moved that easily. And stations even less. We get an access speed of 10 shortly before we get to the signal, and then access control ends and we are limited to 10 anyway. And now we have to crawl in with 10 miles. Signaling changes at this point. We don't have the flashing green anymore, but now we have the special aspects for the Grand Central Terminal. With the red over green, what typically would read as a medium clear, is here now. A terminal proceed with limits us to 10. Railway history is always fascinating, yeah, that's true. Terminal proceed limits us to 10. What tells us that the next signal is not at stop. There are 4 different terminal aspects, I think. One is the terminal proceed, and you have the red over flashing yellow. What would be terminal approach, I think. Red over steady yellow is terminal restricting, and then obviously a red over red is a full stop, a positive stop signal. Red over green, did I say it the wrong way around? Sorry. Red over green. Green over red wouldn't be a different thing to green at all. At least on high signals. Well, depends on the signaling system. American signaling is so fascinating. Now we're approaching a red over flashing yellow. What then should be our terminal approach. With this really fast accelerating and braking train, it is a bit a jumpy experience to go through this area. At least we don't have to do the full round here around the station to turn around our train for going back out. And it does not really coast well, this train. Always stops. Flashing yellow. So, let's make it the last 1,000 feet. And here we go. And why the service does not end at this point, I don't know. I want us to unlock the doors again. And lock them again. Maybe I have to wait until a certain time has elapsed. At any rate, guys, this concludes the stream. It was a really long stream, 3 hours 38 and 38 seconds from what I can see. Visiting 3 places where the Trains in World 6 will take us. If not in the Trains in World 6 routes already, then in the DLCs that are about to come. In my unfiltered opinion, there is a lot to be excited about, and we will talk about the different routes and the new stuff as soon as we get there. Plop, finally the service finished. Yeah. If you have more to say, more opinion about what is coming in Trains in World 6, what there will be in the time after, about the new countries, about the new routes, about all the stuff that was discussed on the stream, please let me know in the comments or on the Discord server if you prefer. And don't forget to drop your entry for Hank's last name so that I can actually celebrate the switching to the Steam installation as a community event, even if I have to retire my 2445 Joe Lorry profile here on the Epic Game Store, at least for now. Maybe they will fix it at some point in time and then we can resume. But for the time being, probably Hank has to take over. Guys, thank you for staying with me so long. Acura gifted a tier 1 top to Juniper. They've given 2 gift subs in the channel. Thank you so much for this. And Juniper is now subbed as well. And this actually raises the count to 11 subs on the channel. This is amazing on our very small but select community of very educated train enthusiasts. I'm always so happy. The other ambassadors are sometimes complaining about a lot of people talking a lot of crap on their community servers and streams and whatsoever, and this is really great with you guys. You all have your opinions, you all like stuff and don't like stuff, but it is always in a very civilized and educated manner. So I'm really happy with our community. Autocorrect is killing you today. Good night, Gutschein was fun. He said, well, good night. I really enjoyed it with you guys. Thank you so much and see you around. Bye bye.